The presenting sponsor of Pod Save America is Blue Apron. Blue Apron now offers 30-minute meals every week that take 30 minutes or less to cook, in case you didn't know what 30-minute meals meant. Designed with your busy schedules in mind and made with the same flavor and farm-fresh ingredients you know and love.
That's when you really like something.
Get $30 off your first meal with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/crooked. Blue Apron is a better way to...
We're going to go talk to Hillary in the woods.
Cook. Welcome to Pod Save America. I'm John Favreau.
I'm What Happened.
I'm Tommy Vitor.
Joining us on the pod today, right here in New York City, the Daily Beast's Erin Ryan. And later, we'll talk to the host of Crooked Media's Pod Save the People, DeRay McKesson. Guys, it's Hillary Clinton Day. We are going to Chappaqua to interview Hillary Clinton.
To the woods.
Lovett has been asking for this since the day we began this podcast.
Well, it felt inevitable.
Just begging for it.
Okay, let's calm down. I didn't even send one email.
All right, we'll get to this. Few housekeeping items. We still have some tickets left for our tour. Go to crooked.com/tour to buy some. And we are adding a live taping of Love It or Leave It right after Pod Save America in Madison, Wisconsin on October 5th.
Tickets now.
Huge news.
We're basically not going to leave until Paul Ryan does. On Pod Save the World this week, Tommy talks to a Republican from Texas.
Congressman Will Hurd, former CIA officer, served in Afghanistan, now making laws. I haven't done the interview yet, so I can't tell you how it went, but
I bet it's going to
I'll let you know about
Republican congressman.
Tomorrow, yeah.
He's a
Did you say that already?
I did.
I wasn't listening. I was waiting for my turn to talk.
That's a great summation of what happens here on Pod Save America. Let's begin with Hurricane Irma. Another massive historic storm. It has thankfully weakened from a Category 4 to a Category 1 hurricane as it makes its way up the Florida coast. At least 4 deaths reported in Florida, 27 dead in the Caribbean, and almost 6 million people in Florida without power. Storm surges and flooding are still a threat all the way up Florida, from Miami to Naples, as far north as Georgia. So thank God this wasn't as damaging as it was first predicted to be. But on the heels of Harvey and with Hurricane Jose not far behind, I want to talk about the role of climate change, since not nearly enough people...
Not appropriate.
In the
We're not allowed to talk about cause and effect in our politics.
Not today.
So let us begin there.
You can't talk about it now, but it's also important not to talk about it later. There's never a good time.
It's just divisive.
So this is what Scott Pruitt, who is our administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, has said, that it is not appropriate to talk about climate change. It's a little bit like when Republicans say it's not the time to talk about gun safety after a school shooting.
Exactly.
Now we're doing this on climate change.
It would be as if, after 50 people got E. coli from Chipotle, that the head of the FDA was like, now is not the time to talk about food safety.
We eat Chipotle regularly here at Crooked Media.
I love Chipotle. Honestly, it was a boon for me. It was a boon for me because I went right in and they were just giving out, they were giving out burritos left and right.
New respect for the sneeze guard, though.
Lovett was eating Taco Bell for breakfast. A Chipotle opened down the street, and now he eats some Chipotle.
I think you mean Del Taco. There was a piece recently, though, that the EPA now has a guy, a political staffer, whose sole job is to go through research grants, monitoring them for the double C word, climate change. They've turned it into an epithet over there at the EPA. I mean, that's how far from logic and reason we've gotten under this administration. It's just a head couldn't be deeper in the sand.
Some sensible Republicans here, the Republican mayor of Miami, disagreed with Pruitt, said, if this isn't climate change, I don't know what is. John McCain said something similar when he was asked on Jake Tapper's show, which is the only Sunday show anywhere that mentioned climate change.
Yeah, Sam Stein pointed out that it's been 2 weeks since the Trump administration was asked about climate change.
So the talking point on the right here is, the first talking point is climate change not real. The second talking point is climate change doesn't cause bad weather. And they have some meteorologists and they have some... And so I want to dispense with that because no one is arguing that climate change caused the hurricane. What we're arguing is that climate change makes bad weather catastrophic and exacerbates the effects of bad weather, like hurricanes.
It makes bad storms more likely, and it makes storms worse. That's just true.
And if sea levels rise in a place like Miami, where storm surge is a huge problem, it's an even greater problem.
Well, right, and we talked about this with Harvey, which is the storm surge was a foot higher in Harvey and Houston than it would have been because of rising sea levels. And warmer temperatures mean that storms will dump more rain on places. These are scientific
Look,
facts.
you don't have to listen to us. There's this person on Twitter named Donald Trump who has been endlessly fascinated by the severity of these storms, who cannot get enough of just how unprecedented the storms have been. It's obviously, he's an addled old racist, so he doesn't really make the connection, or
I thought he was
can't.
an independent deal maker.
You know what? We're going to get to that. You know what?
I just want to make sure. I just want to introduce it early.
I'm going to have a controversial position during this section.
Yes,
boy.
Controversial position. Probably not.
This is this is also another unique challenge with Donald Trump, because when you're tweeting something crazy every day, when you're like kicking around NATO, or like Rosie O'Donnell, whoever it might be, is all these things happen under the radar, off the radar. What's the metaphor I'm looking for here?
I don't
Under
know.
the radar.
Well, I guess you can go under the radar, but I suppose you could also be off the radar, which is just when you're either flying low or maybe you're just not in the range of the kind of the scope there.
I think we're technically off here. Like, all these things are happening at EPA. Enforcement is lagging, or if not stopping, and it's exacerbating this problem. I mean,
Yeah.
and there's no way to get it covered, because, like we were talking about earlier, 2 weeks without a mention on a Sunday show, because when one side has a position where they dig in and you don't move, the press moves on because it gets boring.
One of the things that sort of protects us a little bit is the fact that Donald Trump is so incompetent, because the place where he's been most effective at undermining environmental rules has been at the administrative level, in these lower level positions that just don't get covered, the assistant secretaries and all the rest. But because they've been so disorganized and bumbling, they haven't actually been able to do as much damage as they otherwise could have, even though pulling out of Paris plus all the rule writing that they're doing at EPA and through the administration has been devastating.
Yeah.
What's truly scary about this is, for a long time, it's, liberals are predicting climate change and conservatives saying it's never going to happen. Well, it's here now, and it's here in a big way. And with storm surges and these hurricanes destroying parts of Houston, parts of Texas, putting Miami underwater, putting, Naples is covered. We now have to do something about this because it's here. And so now efforts are basically not just focused on mitigation, but adaptation. Like, you got to build seawalls, and we've got to have stronger buildings and flood protection, all this kind of shit. And that is a huge infrastructure project on its own.
Yes.
And it's not going to get done if we can't focus on
Well,
this.
one of the things the Trump administration rolled back was rules that accounted for climate change in the building of buildings and infrastructure
not great.
in areas prone to flooding.
Mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And these are all expensive items that are fraught politically, that involve a lot of mind share. I mean, the thing that worries me is, like, having gone through some natural disasters, at the NSC and in the administration, like, there is only so many minutes of the day that your Homeland Security advisor or that your FEMA director can spend, like, managing each individual crisis. And Harvey's just beginning. Irma's not even over yet. God knows what could come next. I mean, it's going to take a lot of time and effort for them to fix this, and a lot of money.
I thought perhaps the best encapsulation of conservatism in 2017 was Rush Limbaugh
What a fucking idiot.
saying that Irma was liberal media hype and then promptly evacuating his Palm Beach home.
Yes.
Alex Jones has sort of dimmed his terribleness star, but it's good to have him back in our crosshairs, because the guy is just a clown.
What did Rush Limbaugh sound like broadcasting from an undisclosed location?
I don't know. Well, let's see what would liberal Rush Limbaugh have to say about this? Conservative traitors flooding Miami. They've set their terrorist climate sites on Miami and Tampa and St. Petersburg and Tallahassee. I'm recording this from deep within NORAD, the only place now safe from the climate disaster. Conservative traitors, sacrificing your beaches at the almighty altar of the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers, conservative traitors. Friends. Oh, God. So stupid.
At the end there, that was that him running away.
Yeah, that's him.
I have to...
The water. Water's coming.
Gurgling.
I'm so upset by these changing climates that I must attach yet another fentanyl patch to my haunches.
I was waiting for that. I was going to let you keep going until you talked about the fentanyl.
The only thing changing faster than the rising sea levels is the level of opiate coursing through my bloodstream. Friends.
That's Erin Ryan laughing in the background.
Oh boy.
Okay.
This got off the
All
rails
right.
so fast.
I think we covered that.
I wonder if Hillary will like it when you do that later.
Sufficiently. Okay. Donald Trump has been relatively quiet during this latest storm. That is because he is basking in the glow of his press coverage.
There's a lot of TV to watch,
as
too,
of late.
you know.
I want to talk about Trump, the independent dealmaker. Slew of headlines over the weekend. Here's Peter Baker of the New York Times. Quote, in some ways, Trump is the first independent to serve as president in modern times. Here's Robert Costa of the Washington Post. Quote, in spirit, Trump isn't a Democrat or Republican. He's a freewheeling transactional politician who looks for wins. The Associated Press, quote, Trump the independent. Now, in fairness to Peter, he said that he didn't intend independent to mean moderate or centrist, just that Trump isn't beholden to the Republican Party. John, you have what you've described and previewed for us as a controversial position.
Well, I don't know that
I mitigated it, didn't I?
No, you didn't, not yet. So here's what I think. You can tell me if this is controversial. I don't want to hype it.
It's hyped.
Donald Trump ran as a Republican, but in many ways he did run an independent campaign. The issues that were central to his campaign, immigration restrictions and anti-trade and just general nationalism, would have worked also as an independent bid, and it was running against conservative and Republican dogma. I mean, he stood on that stage and said George Bush lied us into war. You know, he attacked a lot of precepts of the Republican Party, and that helped him win a lot of people who were dissatisfied with the Republican Party. And that could have been a platform he used if he had run as an independent. That being said, once he was inside of the Republican Party as the nominee, he was captured because his tax plan was deeply conservative, something Paul Ryan could get behind. The healthcare bill he's signed on for is something that obviously Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell could get behind. So he did run as an independent, and in many ways he is an independent. But the policy apparatus he built around himself by inertia, by who Reince Priebus put him with, by a lot of different forces, ended up making him govern more like a traditional Republican. And it's actually been something we've talked about a lot, that the great risk of Donald Trump was not that he'd come in, basically, you know, that we'd have Trump's temperament and Ted Cruz's agenda. The more frightening possibility was that he'd really adhere to what Steve Bannon wants, which is a populist agenda that includes big infrastructure proposals and anti-trade and anti-immigration. And he really hasn't done that. So I was more sympathetic to this version because the first 8 months of this administration, he is so thoroughly governed like a, you know, traditional Republican plus some extra verbalized racism and verbalized anti-immigration policy and anti-Muslim policy, that the fact that he could sit down and make this deal with Schumer did feel so strange and such a departure. So I guess my view of the articles is not that they're wrong, it's that they're completely overstated. Like, making one non-ideological deal to extend the debt limit by 3 months does not make him the independent he could have been. That's all.
So I'm going to disagree with you. That was in any way controversial.
Ooh.
You don't,
Tommy.
Aaron, what do you think?
I think this is instructive in that it's like a sea change in how Trump is covered versus every other president.
Yeah.
Every other president is lashed to their previous positions and gets the crap beaten out of them if they change or diverge in any way. Donald Trump is constantly handed a blank slate. Axios the other day reported that he has a chance for a reset on race because he was meeting
Wait, what? No.
Yes. What? You didn't read this?
It was.
What are you talking about?
Dude.
I'm going to read it to you. President Trump's botched Charlottesville response was the low point of his presidency for some key aides. Now he has a chance for a reset. At the same time, he's reveling in the adulation for a surprise deal with Democrats.
Wait, I want to see Lovett's face. He doesn't
let
know
me,
why.
Let me
He
tell
doesn't
you
know
why.
Oh my God.
The reason was that he was at a meeting with Tim Scott.
He has a meeting with a black Republican senator on his schedule, thus the racial reset.
Who wrote that? Name them.
I don't know. Axios?
It would be Mike Allen or Jim Vandehei.
Come on, Mike.
I don't know. But, right, so
Better than that, Mike.
So, I mean, I think this is, again, like...
A reset on fucking race because you're meeting with Tim Scott?
Tommy, do you have the line there where he compares it to a movie character? It was
I do not.
Something like, it's a classic storyline the bad, evil guy realizes everyone hates him, and so he decides to turn things around by reconciling.
I just hope this is not the false victory. I hope what's going on right now is false defeat.
Yeah. So
I hope we're not at the turn into 3. I'm talking about classic structure based on the dumb book everybody reads when they move to LA.
Right, Save the Cat's great.
Worked
It
for
really
us.
helped me. Really helped me succeed.
How you guys? Hey, how's that screenplay coming along, guys?
You got a protagonist
Got
yet?
some nice characters.
What the hell are we talking about?
I'm talking about Trump's pivot on race.
But in some ways, this is back to how
Give me a
Trump was
fucking
covered
break.
in the campaign. Because everyone thought that there was this chance deep inside of him, there was this liberal Manhattan Republican who was moderate on a whole bunch of issues. And that is belied by the fact that his entire election was appealing to the hardest hard right audience he could possibly find.
Yeah.
And here we are. But just because he hates Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan doesn't mean that this is some new day.
So I agree with Levitt that there was a chance during the campaign that Trump could have upset the party and the party structure by going far to the right on the Republican Party's most far right positions on immigration and
Trade.
terrorism, and then on trade and stuff like that, and then tacked more towards Democrats on issues like he promised to protect Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid. He at one point talked about raising taxes on hedge fund people, and he talked about trade protectionism wherever that falls. Yeah. So and infrastructure, and this is where Bannon wanted him to go. Bannon wanted him to be this big nationalist, this ethno-nationalist, where we kick out immigrants and then we do all this building and infrastructure and bullshit.
And tax the
none
rich.
of that. But the problem is, absolutely none of that has happened since he started governing. And the only time he has broken from the Republican Party while governing, the only time is when he made a deal to push a vote on the debt ceiling from 18 months to 3 months. He literally shortened the timeline for a vote, and those are the articles we got.
And there's nothing liberal about that either. It's just a stupid deal.
The debt ceiling is incredibly stupid. It's non-ideologically stupid. I think one thing that's instructive about how all this went down is there was I think a report in Politico about the conversation between Mulvaney and Trump on cutting entitlements, and Trump's like, I said I wouldn't cut Social Security and Medicare and all the rest. He goes, and Mulvaney's like, well, what about disability? It's like welfare. Mulvaney leaving out the fact that it's Social Security, disability insurance. And Trump's like, yeah, we can do that. And so a lot of this is because of the people around Trump. Bannon's not wrong about that.
Right.
That a lot of this is because Donald Trump built a Republican apparatus.
Well, this gets to my other point, which is so what forms Trump's views? What is his ideology? He is a dotty old racist Fox News viewer, and that's how he gets his information and news. And so he either gets it from the people he surrounds himself with in his administration, or he gets it from Fox and Friends. And thus, that's how his views come to.
I have a question
Chuck
about
and
this.
Nancy.
I have a question about this. So all these stories, the AP story, the Post story, the Times story, the Axios story, whatever's happened on cable news as a result of those stories setting the narrative, Trump sees that and he really likes it. And it's good. It's good for the country that Donald Trump sees on television that him...
It's good for the country that he's now watching Morning Joe instead of Fox and Friends. That's
Yes.
a terrifying
It's-
thing
but
to
it- but,
say.
like, I- look,
but you're probably
Look, we're on the
True.
we are through the looking glass. This is the world.
It's all relative. It's
Right.
all relative.
I didn't decide to move America to fucking Saturn. I tried to stop it. We all did. That's the point of this book we've read. What Happened by Hillary Clinton, available now. And but because we're on Saturn, where the rules are different and gravity is strange and the Earth and there's no solid ground beneath us and there are rings instead of moons, I'm asking the question: should we be glad that these reporters are writing these pieces, and if maybe either subconsciously or consciously saying, let's try to use the press to use fucking Pavlovian response to get the deranged poodle in the Oval Office to kind of whatever, sit and stop shitting in the fucking house? Like, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
I'm with you.
All I'm saying is we focus.
There's a lot of metaphors there.
A lot. They're good.
Press focuses too much on characters in a drama and not enough on
I always like when you say that, characters in a drama.
and not enough on the larger forces here. So in 3 months, we're going to have a debate and about the debt ceiling, about the funding the government, dreamers, infrastructure, tax reform, whatever it may be. And Trump's going to have to make or not make some actual deals with policy consequences. And then all of this stuff is going to go to shit. Because if he makes some deal to legalize young undocumented Americans, then great for Chuck and Nancy, great for Democrats, great for America, and is going to continue to get that great coverage on Morning Joe and stuff like that. But his pals at Fox and Friends and on the right, they're not going to be so happy. Like,
I don't know
happy,
that's true.
They're
I don't
happy
know if I
right
agree with
now
you.
because it's a deal with no consequences. It's him as a
They're
deal
not
maker, but
they can look.
Steve Bannon said it's going to start a civil war if he legalizes it.
That's next year. Yeah, we got December problems first, but no, but you know, a little bit of like Paul Ryan kind of being dragged into a deal that legalizes the DACA recipients is not the worst outcome for him either, right? They want this to go. You know, he's voted against it in the past, but it's not a core belief. It's a base play. But if Trump comes along with a deal with Democrats and they can claim some kind of victory, I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. But I'm not so sure that Fox News won't go along on the journey we're about to go on.
That's what I think that Fox's like pathetic supplication to Trump is financial, and that they will kind of follow his lead. Like look at the Lou Dobbs segment, just shredding Paul Ryan.
Right.
That guy was a Fox business reporter, like throwing all principle out
You
the
know
window.
what? I just hope that there aren't a lot of businesses watching Fox Business because I think they're getting. I don't know. I'm just worried about their employees.
Their investment advice.
You know, when Bannon talks about a civil war, the supplicants on Fox, maybe the people who are on Fox and Friends don't really have much intelligence at all. Sean Hannity is going to be there with him till the end. Lou Dobbs.
Sean Hannity's going to be buried in Trump's coffin.
Breitbart will start a war against that administration. Against
they're a bunch of lunatics.
They will.
Yep.
And right now, everyone's holding their fire because it's just a deal about a fucking vote. So it's all too early. Okay. When we come back, we'll be talking about Steve Bannon on 60 Minutes.
Great job.
With Erin Ryan. Pod Save America is brought to you by Lyft. Lyft knows that their drivers are what keep them moving, so they do everything they can to make sure their drivers are happy on every trip. It's a very simple formula. Happy drivers mean happy passengers. Maybe that's why 9 out of 10 Lyft drivers get a perfect 5-star rating. You can earn hundreds of dollars a week.
A little
plus
bit of that is some great inflation on these 5 stars. You know.
Okay, well, if you want to be stingier with your stars, that's one way to do it.
I just think we've sort of changed the way we. Anyway. Doesn't matter.
Let's go. Lyft was the first rideshare platform with tipping built right into the app because getting tips shouldn't depend on your passenger having a crumpled bill in their pocket or even a neatly folded one. You keep 100% of the tips and they add up fast. Drivers have been paid over $200 million since the feature was first introduced. And Express Pay lets you get paid almost instantly.
That's the second time you said like million, I think.
Did I say that?
You say million sometimes, and you also say scheme when you mean scheme sometimes.
Anything else
funny.
we got? Anything else?
Draw? When you say draw?
You mispronounce
Rum?
epithet
Rum?
pretty regularly. It's a 50% success rate on that one. Batting 500 on epithet.
Tough ad for John.
Drivers have been paid over 200 million epithet scheme
Buckaroos.
dollars.
Well, yeah, that's how you say it. It's so weird.
Scheme.
That's so weird. You know what it is? It's because
Scheme.
it's a speechwriter thing. Because
It's a scheme.
You do what I do sometimes, which is because you've thought about it, how they sound all the time. You pronounce the.
I know it's a scheme, guys. It's a drawer and it's a room. Lyft has taken the guesswork out of pickups. The new AMP device uses color coding to help passengers find their drivers. So join the ride-sharing company that believes in treating its people better. Go
The
to
other
Lyft.
day, you said attorney generals.
I did not.
You did.
It's attorneys general. I know that.
I know it is, but you said it wrong.
I think that was Dan. Go to lyft.com/crooked today and you can get a $500 new driver bonus. That's lyft.com/crooked. Lyft.com/crooked. Limited time only terms.
Dan's getting attacked by his co-host. He's getting attacked on Twitter by Ann Coulter. It's a tough day for Dan.
Ann Coulter, Ann Coulter attacking Dan on Twitter by defending Harvard. Didn't know she was a big elitist Harvard defender now.
I don't really want to. I can't. Just don't engaging with that person is a mistake.
She's Chris.
Pod Save America is brought to you by Wink.
Wink.
In these trying times,
They are trying.
it's more important than ever to have a steady supply of high-quality wine. Good, Wink. Good.
Fact.
Trump is president. Get Chardonnay drunk after work.
Wink understands this, so they've made it their mission to give you access to exceptional wines from around the world. Just go to trywink.com, spelled TRYWINC.com. Take a brief palate profile quiz, and Wink will recommend distinct and interesting wines, actually customized to your palate to be shipped directly to your door every month.
Why is it wrong to put ice in wine?
I don't know.
It's so stupid.
It's not
Waters it down,
wrong.
I guess.
It's
But
just-
who cares? Like, why can't you? Why
it's
can't
a
you have a
gross
nice
thing to
cold
do.
glass of wine?
Well, you can chill it if
Ice
you want.
cold glass.
Wink uses their expertise to pick the best wines for you based on your taste preferences. Wink will even introduce you to new, rare, and custom wines that are
Order
not
a rosé on ice, and all of a sudden you're like Fred Flintstone.
Yep. And the first round's on us because right now Wink is offering listeners $20 off your first order when you go to trywink.com/crooked. That's TryWink, spelled TRYWINC.com/crooked to get $20 off your first order now. Trywink.com/crooked and use all the fucking ice.
I just think the wine
want.
people are killing themselves without having. Just let it.
Just
stop being so haughty about the
crushed,
whole operation.
Cubed.
Oh, this has an earthen vibe. Whatever. Just it's a drink.
Fill up a tray.
I get hints of cigar box.
Fill up a tray, freeze it up, and just dump it in your glass.
Fresh cranberry.
In The Sun Also Rises, Hemingway he's drinking wine like it's Gatorade.
Out of leather bladders.
Yeah, like
order
Gatorade.
Order a glass of wine on your next flight, put some ice cubes in it, and let that seat recline all the way back.
It's hard to go populist to elitist so fast with ice in your wine and then Sun Also Rises. You're like Steve Bannon of messaging.
I will not be.
You're
Do not.
Svengali.
Don't you dare.
Lovett is
person.
wearing 2 shirts right
I
now.
am wearing
button-down
the
shirts.
exact right number
You
of
can't
shirts.
see
This
it.
is a lovely sweater.
you
I will
can't
not
see
be
it.
talked to in this way. It's a sweater. It's my senator sweater. It's the sweater I wear when I talk to people that aren't you idiots.
And we're back. And joining us is Erin Ryan.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's good. I was so surprised that you all three were here in New York. I thought I was going to come in and there's going to be this kind of phone situation.
Oh,
Us
no,
too.
we travel in
No.
a pack.
Wow.
Of course.
That's
We're
great.
all here.
Do you guys have like matching pajamas that you wear when you go to bed in hotels on the road? Do they have your first initial like
They
monogrammed
won't
on
do
it?
it.
Who told you that?
They said no.
Hey, Lisa, take a note next time. Okay, so we want to talk about Steve Bannon on 60 Minutes. Did you sit through the entire interview?
No, I saw bits and pieces, and I saw a GIF of the best moment of the video, which is where a part of his face moved independently of the rest of his face. But I mostly just kind of read recaps of it.
Yeah, it was. He made a few different headlines. Let's start with he declared war on the Republican establishment and accused Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell of trying to nullify the 2016 election because they don't want Trump's populist economic nationalist agenda to be implemented.
Cool.
Seems fair,
Yeah, I didn't disagree with that.
right?
Yeah, I don't think that's wrong.
He also said something
Cool.
interesting, which was on the first. He said on the first day he ratted out Mitch McConnell. On the first day, Mitch McConnell told him, "Enough with the drain the swamp stuff. I can't hire any good lobbyists." Basically,
Yeah.
Man, Mitch McConnell is
It's
just
weird to root-
exactly who we think he is.
it was weird to root for Steve Bannon, but in that moment, I sort of rooted.
It's
for
like
Steve
Alien
Bannon.
versus Predator.
Can we pause on this for a second, though?
Sure.
Because he is right that the swamp is a business model and that it's
Yeah.
going to take generations to drain or whatever the hell they really want to do. But Steve Bannon is profiting off it as much as anybody else. His entire entity that he runs, Breitbart, is funded by a billionaire named Robert Mercer, who is a right-wing lunatic who funds all these other things. Like, Steve lives in a house that houses Breitbart News. He is as much a swamp creature as anyone else. He just doesn't play one on TV.
Then why is he so handsome?
Because he wears...
What kind of swamp creature looks like that?
Because he perfected the polo under a black shirt,
What?
under a black
I wanna
blazer
just-
look.
This is.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's just talk about that for 1 second. So he wears. I really was flummoxed by it. So he wears a button-down shirt under a button-down shirt under a jacket.
All black.
All black. So I don't mind the all black. Johnny Cash is. It's as if Johnny Cash had a stroke, like halfway getting dressed,
Well, what's interesting is Steve
and put out
Bannon.
an extra shirt by mistake.
Steve Bannon's actually really skinny, and it's all shirt weight that he just like layers over and over. So it takes him about 45 minutes every day to like peel off every single layer of
It feels
shirt.
like, is he cold? Is he kind of does he always get chilly? But then it's like, why not wear a sweater over it?
I don't know.
I mean, it's sort of like the cautionary tale of the middle-aged divorced man. Like, how does this happen? I don't get it, and
What
it does
happened?
feel like
happened? Steve Bannon, what
what
happened?
happened when you got dressed. It feels a little bit like just another fuck you from Steve Bannon. Like, he's like, fuck them. I'm going to be dressed like a crazy person.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I also think, but I will say that Steve Bannon's a little bit of a trailblazer in that it feels so nice to be talking about clothes that a man is wearing instead of clothes that a woman is wearing. So, like, thank you, Steve Bannon, the feminist.
Let's go after Steve Bannon's appearance a little bit here.
Yeah. No, I'm feeling like very feminist right now. We can make fun of men too.
I saw that you tweeted he should drink more water. That's the
Yes. That's every time I see him, I'm like, oh my God, how much water have I drank today? And I go drink some more.
Megan Amram tweeted that he puts lipstick on his eyeballs. Can I say, working in a campaign and working in the White House is like the worst thing you could possibly do for your health. We all watched Barack Obama age 2 decades in 8 years, but I've never seen someone look worse for the wear than Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not concerned about him, but like his health doesn't look good.
What do we think about him out there in general? Like, is he someone who is successfully spinning a 7-month stint in the White House where he got fired as a success? Are we not really buying it?
I think you can only have so many demonstrable apparent failures in a row before it stops looking like you're playing some kind of master chess game and it starts looking like you're just pretending like you didn't lose.
Right.
And like I think he's kind of running out of time. I think most people haven't been. I think it'd be fair to not be generous and assume that he's just a loser. But it is possible that he's got some other tricks up his sleeve. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I sort of go back and forth here. He is in many ways like a classic sophisticated crank, right? He has a whole bunch of arguments. He had a real career before, but then you listen to what he says and it's like, populism will win the day. The question is if it's left wing or right wing and all the rest. And it's like, okay, there's some truth to that. It was with all kind of crank nonsense. There's like a kernel of truth in there. But he's a sophisticated crank elevated because he helped elect a president. And he did do that. And what he said was, his case for why Trump could win was correct. I mean, he was right.
But like,
he is right that the central problem with the Trump administration, which is what we were just talking about, is that he didn't staff the administration with a bunch of Steve Bannons. He staffed it with some Steve Bannons and then some traditional Republicans and then like Wall Street bankers.
Right.
And so Bannon's dream on the populist economic side of like infrastructure and draining the swamp and tax reform and all this bullshit isn't getting realized because Gary Cohn and Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan are there.
Right.
That's correct.
And Mulvaney,
right?
I think Mulvaney has played a big role in all of this because everything that he's basically been a Paul Ryan acolyte inside of the administration, and it's made a difference.
I think he's a Jim Comey. Like, you're right that he sounds sophisticated. He quotes President Polk and cites history, right? But like, he's a Jim Comey letter away from leading the most racist losing campaign in modern history than the most racist winning campaign in modern history. And like, I think we can't remember that. One of the things
Hillary Clinton would agree with that.
Yes, she would.
In what happened.
She would.
Sale now.
One thing that is remarkable to me, though, is like, again, like the sort of totally rejiggering of how the press covers these things. Like the fact that he still gets away with bragging about sexual assault, it's locker room talk. There's like no follow up on that. Just locker room talk. It's just the guy is disgusting.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, how about the Chris Christie stuff? Like, he was like, no, the Access Hollywood tape, that was a real test. If you got on the plane afterwards, you were part of the team. If not, we don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, I mean, well, true and awful, right? It seems like that was true. Terrific.
Yeah, it's awful, but it's also like another irritating thing about this whole thing is how, like, I don't know, it's like there's a whole crew of people in power right now who seem like they're trying to play guys who are bad guys on TV. Like they're like they're play acting a version of what they think evil is based on a movie they saw in the 80s.
Yes.
And it like doesn't it's really odd because it's like it's really disingenuous. It feels really fake. Have you ever talked to somebody who was like acting or like it feels like you're in a cultural reenactment of like like the bad guys from Revenge of the Nerds.
I'm a street fighter.
Yeah.
Are you?
How
How many fights have you been in lately?
Yeah, he was so excited to call himself a street fighter.
I'm a street fighter. You're a guy that got some Seinfeld money. Calm the fuck down. Who the Mercers like because you're a nut.
And to your Christie point, they're like, that guy was dead to us. He was off the plane. He was never given an important job. Chris Christie now leading our opioid task force, by the way. Like, we handed him that piece of shit.
No, I love when he rails against elites and he's like, oh, limousine liberals and blah, blah, blah. It's like, hey, buddy, you were fucking on Wall Street in Hollywood. That was your career. Like, you're as elitist as they come.
Also, Gorka, Bannon, they all do this Obi-Wan thing where they're like, strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. It's like, you run a fucking blog for racists.
It's a racist scene.
But, as Tommy mentioned, the alliance with Mercer makes him at least somewhat influential and powerful.
It's capitalized.
And what came out of that interview that I think is most consequential is that Mercer and Bannon are planning primary challenges to Republicans like Dean Heller, Jeff Flake, possibly Bob Corker,
Dirty Dean Heller?
Dirty Dean.
Possibly Roger Wicker of Mississippi. Currently, they're trying to take down Luther Strange, who
That
I didn't even
fucking
know
liberal
was a
liberal
senator.
Wicker.
He's like 1,000,000 feet tall, and his name is Luther Strange. Like
I didn't believe that was a real name of a real
real.
senator.
I didn't either.
he like came directly from Hogwarts. He took time off from his teaching position there to like be in the Senate, and now he's getting primary.
Oh, is he the Defense Against the Dark Arts guy?
Yeah, again,
He
he's
never
having a
made
really
it.
bad year.
8th book. Yeah, but poor Roger Wicker's like, how did I get on this list? Like, what did I do?
trying to think of something like Tea Party Puff. Huffing Party.
So
I don't have it.
So I'm struggling with the primary
Racist puff.
I'm struggling with the primary challenges because in the pre-Trump world, I would say excellent. A bunch of moderate or conservative
The exact
Republicans
same journey.
are being taken down by a bunch of right-wing freaks. That's good for Democrats. We're going to win. In this world, I don't know. I don't know if like Roy Moore is the stronger candidate against a Democrat than Luther Strange, whoever he may be.
Well,
I don't know if like Dean Heller's challenger is stronger than Dean Heller against whoever we may put up, because the argument they're going to use against these Republicans they're trying to knock off is they're part of the establishment, they're part of the swamp, they're part of the special interests, and you should knock them off for a change.
I think that's assuming that the level of energy that existed on Election Day 2016 is going to be present in 2018.
That's a good point.
And among the exact same people. So like that's a pretty big gamble to assume that like the Trumpian like rally attendee MAGA hat wearing set is going to be as fired up and mad. And I don't think that's going to be the case.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and because whatever, polls screw up all the time. But if you take a look at like what media people are consuming now, what political publications, what broadcast people are watching, like MSNBC is killing it because people are mad and fired up on the left. Like just as how when Obama was first in office, Fox News was killing it. Like it's a midterm election and that's a huge gamble. I just can't see that playing out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
I had the same journey, which was like initially I'm like, great, spend money, bleed these guys dry. But I have this fear inside me that these more, you see somewhat moderate individuals, even when they're cowards like Dean Heller, seeing them go down, like a Jeff Flake going down, like I don't know that that's a good thing for the institution. I do think it's back to the moderating of Trump question. Like, is he going to go all in with the Breitbart crowd and like primary people like he's been doing in Nevada? Or is he going to get with the program and like support the caucus? We just don't know yet.
I think the Breitbart crowd plays in extremely red districts, though. And if Trump likes national headlines that are fawning, he can't align with that crowd because he's found throughout the first months of his presidency that every time he's aligned with them, the papers, the TV shows, the talk shows have hated him. And he liked the Schumer bump. He liked getting good press coverage. So like that was gross. Schumer bump. No, but
Schumer has a Schumer bump from the Schumer bump.
yeah, right, right.
I was in my head.
Nobody likes that.
Stays in.
That's
Don.
staying-
That's staying in. I saw your face. It's staying the fuck in.
But yeah, he likes good coverage, and
I think that's the title.
Yeah, he's the Schumer bump. I'm so sorry, guys, but he'll do what he needs to do to impress the audience that he's in front of at the exact moment. And if he can't impress the nation with aligning himself with Breitbart, he's not going to continue to do it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think what we've seen the past 8 months is that he'll do both, right? He'll bounce around. I think you're right. He'll pivot one way. He'll try to help these people, but he won't be disciplined enough to follow through. I mean, he's already threatened some of these people with primaries. He basically threatened Dean Heller in front of him. But then following through means making people mad to their faces, which is something he's never been comfortable doing, which is why the I'm fired guy can't fire someone.
He can't look Gary Cohn in the eye.
But,
like that's his discipline.
I feel like I feel a little bit about like how we're worried about what's going to come out of these primaries the way we did early in the Republican primary, where I remember us talking about this a lot, that it was, who do we want to face Hillary in the primary? And there was Jeb and Marco and Cruz and some other kind of homogenous white faces I've mostly forgotten. And then there was
Ben
Trump
Carson.
and Ben Carson. And then I remember us talking about this, that like, who do we want to come out of the process? And Trump was the wild card. There was this there was a feeling like, oh, it would be great if Trump got that. He'll implode. But maybe he won't. We're not sure. We don't really know. But in our minds, we're like, but Rubio's harder than Jeb, and Jeb is harder than Cruz. Like, that was an easy math to do. So it's a little bit like kind of different math. Like, we don't really know what comes out of it. But I do think we're maybe a little bit traumatized, and we're not going to make the exact same mistakes in every single election.
And it still could be another year of the Sharon Angle year, the Todd Aiken legitimate rape guy, the Christine who was the witch or not the witch. Remember
What a year.
Connecticut.
What a year.
By the way,
and they all
legitimate
lost. And they
rape-
put up those
year.
crazy candidates and they all lost. And the Democrats won those races.
Aiken lost because of talking about whatever I can't even remember. What was it called? Legitimate rape?
Yeah.
And then Donald Trump brags about legitimate sexual assault, and he doesn't pay a price.
He's on the way to the White House. Okay, this brings us to Hillary Clinton and her book, What Happened, which we will be interviewing her about in a couple hours. Erin, you read the book.
I sure did.
And you wrote a review already.
I did write a review already. Somehow I was able
That's
to.
amazing because the three of us basically just
Honestly,
finished the book late last night.
The three of us getting through a book over the weekend, we're like, this tweet is so long. I can't believe how long it's taking me to read this tweet by Hillary Clinton. I never knew tweets could be this long.
Yeah, it's
What'd you think?
I thought, I was of a few minds of it on it. First of all, it wasn't a bad book. It's not bad.
No.
It's like there are
good.
parts of it that are like really funny, in a way that's kind of deadpan and like, oh, that's actually really funny. When she was like writing about her staffers fighting over hot sauce brands, and like when she was kind of deadpanning how she goes through her day, it was like actually funny.
Yeah.
And
When she was talking about the inaugural, and she's like, "I wish I was anywhere but here." Bali? Bali sounds good.
Yeah.
She's like, that was like deadpan.
Also, I liked how she kind of ping pongs between being like an aggressively basic suburban woman and like one of the most intelligent and powerful women, like love her or hate her, like who's ever like lived in the modern era. So it's like, she would be like, I love NCIS Los Angeles. It's the strongest of the franchise, which was a horrifying line. And then she'll talk about how she's got a plan for meeting resistance with steel, like with steely resolve. And it's like, oh my God, this woman is scary, but also like super nice, and I kind of want to hug her, but she's also very... So there's that. The book is actually a good book. But I think reading it, I was put into a mind space where I was like, I don't want to hear this from you right now. And like, not that I'll never want to hear it from you, but I understand why people are like kind of resistant to it. And I was thinking this morning that it sort of reminds me of like, if you had a dog that got hit by a car and the person who hit your dog came over to your house and explained like, look, there was a bee in my car. I'm super allergic to bees and I had to hit the bee. Otherwise, if it would have stung me, I would have died. And it totally wasn't my fault. Or I got rear-ended and that's why my car hit your dog. I don't care. Like, my dog is still dead. I don't want to look at you right now. Like, I don't care if it wasn't your fault. I don't care if like that you have a perfectly good excuse. Like, my dog is still dead. And I know that like, I don't think that it's even rational to be that angry or like upset with her. But the fact that, this is her owning up to the mistakes that led to where we are right now is kind of, I don't really want to be put back in that headspace just yet. But I'm glad I read it. That being said, I think it's a book that people should read.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a similar reaction. I especially when she gets to the litigation of why, and she writes this case, and it's like, oh right, you're. It reminded me of when she was in the Benghazi hearing, and she just held her own for 11 hours, which is just, I worked for her, and like that's the Hillary Clinton you love working for, because first of all, she comes like. Staff can make a mistake. She can make wrong choices about the message or all the rest. But you know that she's going to show up brilliant and prepared. Like, we've been preparing for this interview for the past couple of days, and we're all going in under the assumption that she will be fully and totally prepared for questions and for the direction we're going to take it. And that's part of who she is. And so you read this litigation of why and the different reasons and the different causes and her way of breaking them down. And she's one of the smartest people around. And the thing I was thinking about too in reading the book is all of those qualities became background radiation. The fact that she is incredibly tough, the fact that she is a brilliant person became kind of the for granted part of the election, and everything was focused on negatives. And in that, she is right. So I found myself having the same feeling as you. Like I was telling these guys last night, like I pinball back and forth, like reading this and being like so outraged on her behalf and so sympathetic, and then also having that same feeling that you had, which is, I don't know what to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit traumatic to go through it again, because she does do such a good job of taking you through the whole experience in a very candid way. It's a very candid book. Like, and we're talking about, like, we've all read a lot of politicians' books, unfortunately.
Yes.
And some of them are like, I'm running for office and here's my blah, blah, blah that my speechwriter and my communications person put on paper, And then there's more honest books. And this is one of the more candid politician books, which is good. I would also tell people, like, you should read the whole thing. And then if you have criticism, like, offer all the criticism you want. But the excerpts that have leaked out, and they haven't been put out by the Clinton people, don't really paint an accurate picture of what the whole book is about.
The excerpts give you a unique window into her frustration, because she couldn't have more fully owned this loss in the book. But the fact that she also talks about Comey and how that influenced the election, the fact she talks about Russia, like, there will be people that will pluck that out and say she's making excuses. It's just, like hopefully we all could be a little more adult about it and be like, yes, they were factors that contributed to this broader event, even if she didn't run a
Yeah, I don't think people are really capable of being adults when it comes to Hillary Clinton, though. Like, people go insane one way or the other, like whether or not they are crazy about her and love her, or whether they just hate her.
I'm sorry, Erin, just pause for a second. I just want to make sure we have the Verret authentication code on that point.
Oh, guys, did you see that he's like a house DJ? He like produced a bunch of, oh my God.
We're not talking about it.
Okay.
We're not talking about it.
Anyway, I think people are like, because like John, what you said, that some people experience the election as like a trauma, and revisiting it causes like this extreme reaction one way or the other, and it's really hard to go back there.
And this is something we want to ask her, because the Bernie Hillary wound that opened in the primary that everyone thought would heal for the general did not heal, and it has not healed today, and it is certainly a fair reading, I think, of the Twitter reaction and everything else, that this is exacerbating the problem. I think she has every right to tell her story and explain where she's coming from. But like, okay, now as a party, how do we fix this? Because we still have this monster in the White House. Our entire message is still just attacking him. Like, what are we? What do we stand for? And like, how do we fix this? Because this is an existential problem.
And we have all experienced how difficult it is talking about that. Like, you send out an
mentions are dead already.
You send out an errant tweet and about the 2016 election, and you are
batten down the hatches.
Yeah.
Poor Dylan. Dylan Matthews at Vox tweeted over the weekend, does anyone know what she was trying to accomplish with this book? Now, you can take the tone of that in a bunch of different ways. Dylan later said he was actually just wondering, like, what's she trying to do?
Yeah.
Well, he's still replying to his mention.
I was glad he was like, guys, I'm not going to apologize for asking what a politician's motivations are. Like, everybody, but it speaks to the kind of sensitivity that people have because of all these unfair dynamics that played out in the election. We're all kind of like a dog that needs to be reassimilated to other dogs.
We're all partially honest. In the same way the book is like pretty honest, but not 100% candid, right?
Well, and she lost an election to Trump, right? Which is what makes this whole thing different. And I was on John Kerry's campaign. I remember the days and weeks and months after that campaign. John Kerry was destroyed. There were Newsweek books about it. And I mean, it was bad, but it wasn't anything like this. And we sort of saw it coming, though, if she was going to lose. Like, I remember visiting headquarters in Brooklyn to say hi to our old friends who were there. And I was talking to Jen Palmieri and talking to Christina Shockey. And I was like, this was right after she won the primary. And I'm like, this has got to be so much pressure for you guys, because in addition to all the other pressure you get on a presidential campaign, it's Trump. And if you don't beat Trump, it's going to be that much, like, that's so scary. And they're like, thanks, appreciate that. But they hadn't really hit them yet.
Yeah.
Like, it ultimately hit them, but it hadn't hit them at that point. And it makes it a different context, because he was so scary.
Yeah. I mean, and I think additionally, the book's title is What Happened, but Hillary kind of at one point says, like, I don't know why I'm the one that gets treated like this. I'm at a loss. Tell me what you think. Like, I'm at a loss. And it seems like a lot of the loose ends are still loose. Like, she lays out why she did what she did and takes ownership for the things that went wrong, but we're missing the exact thing that went wrong. You know what I mean? There's like step 1 to question mark profit. Like, there's like a whole bunch of question marks still left in there.
Right. I think that the parts she takes responsibility for are the parts least elucidated in the book, right? And the parts that were the outside factors, which she very effectively makes the case mattered most, are laid out and fully and bare. And I think it's quite reasonable that this book, an attempt for her to explain from her perspective what she thinks went wrong, needs help on the parts that are specific about the failures of the campaign, specific about her failures in the campaign. So,
almost because every time she takes responsibility for one of those failures, there also happens to be some mitigating outside factor that has also caused that problem.
Right.
So it's just like, you can see the whole book is a back and forth. I was at fault. I did this wrong. But this also happened.
And it's true. And she says this in the book, which I think is quite way reasonable. Like, these things happened, and they're not excuses, but they happened, and we need to understand why they happened. And she's right about that. And I think the excerpts that have been pulled out have kind of highlighted that aspect of it. But she's not wrong that we need to talk about that.
Yeah, I also thought as I was reading it that I was like, oh, I'm glad that this is all written down in one place, because I think 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if anybody wants a snapshot into like this weird time in history, like this will be a really useful volume for one side of what happened.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like future college kids will probably get assigned it and like grumble about it, but then actually secretly enjoy reading it because it's like kind of a fun book.
Yeah.
The book is a metaphor. The book is being treated like and represents the way Hillary Clinton has been treated in the public eye this whole time, which is incredibly high level of scrutiny, much of it taken the wrong way, much of it taken fairly, flawed, but mostly honest and trying to understand something, but the flaws become exacerbated and the flaws make the honest part harder to talk about.
Sounds like we got a book jacket blurb.
We'll have to add like an accordion to interject into the entire thing.
Okay. When we come back, we will talk with DeRay McKesson. Pod Save America is brought to you by Helix.
Helix!
Night after night, two people lay in the same bed. But when it comes time to buy a new mattress, only one gets their way. Interesting.
It's you can customize both sides with the Helix mattress. I'm going to order a Helix mattress. This is the beginning of the journey of me getting one because I'm sick of my mattress. I really hate it. End of thought.
Cool.
Go to helixsleep.com.
I think it's hurting my back.
Go to helixsleep.com.
Maybe
Love
that's
it.
just my 30s.
Answer a few simple questions based on 4 key preferences, and the result will be a custom sleep profile used to build you the most comfortable mattress you'll ever sleep on.
Nice.
Your mattress will arrive at your door in about a week, and shipping is completely free. And for couples, Helix customizes each side of the mattress, personalized to suit each of your bodies and the way you both sleep. Helix customers report a 30% improvement in overall sleep quality.
I have a question. Do you
Yes.
guys adhere to bedsides in different beds, like in hotels and so forth, or does
Yes.
it break down?
I do, and I think it's a stupid dynamic.
Why does that
I don't
happen?
know. Why do we do that? Over time, your mattress just sinks on one side and not on the other.
Yeah.
You're supposed to like rotate it, do all the stupid shit that nobody actually does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like my side. That's all I have to say
But
about
even
that.
when you travel, it's like you're in a totally different kind of room.
You have 100 nights to try it out, and if you don't love it, they'll pick it up for free and give you a full refund, and they won't ask any questions about why they're picking up a mattress that you've tried for 100 nights.
I mean, they'll have questions in their mind,
But they will not verbalize
and they will wear gloves.
those concerns or questions. That's the guarantee. Go to helixsleep.com/crooked. Get $50 off your first order.
$50 off your first order.
That's helixsleep.com/crooked.
HelixSleep.com/crooked.
$50 off.
$50 off.
helixsleep.com/crooked. Pod Save America is brought to you by the Cash App.
Cash App.
What do we have to say about the Cash App?
We're going to get their new debit card thing where you can personalize it. We're going to use it. There's going to be money for you. $5 for hurricane relief. It's the simplest, easiest way to pay people back. We're not using the other app anymore. That's the end of it. That's all there is to it. The Cash App. The Cash App.
I would like to know why those of you who haven't downloaded the Cash App yet have not done so.
Oh, by the way, and also,
Please tell us.
Yeah.
I
Answer
appreciate
for yourself.
all
We
the
will-
people tweeting at us your admonitions to your friends that you're only paying them back via the Cash App. We like that. We think that's fun.
We do.
Yeah.
And we like that you CC the advertiser on it because it lets them know that this shit works.
You know what else we like that we haven't done in a while? We also really like if people like accidentally borrow their friend's phone and they accidentally subscribe them to Pod Save America, then film it and then tweet it at us.
We haven't done that.
It's not something we are asking you to do, but
if
we
it
think
happens,
it's
we
fun.
won't
It's
mind.
funny.
And if while you
won't
have the
mind.
phone, before you send an errant text,
Yeah.
you also download the Cash App.
Yeah.
Enter the code PODSAVE. That's how you get the $5. That's how people in need get the $5. We wouldn't mind that either.
And also, add love it or leave it and Pod Save the World in there because you have their phone. They seem to be taking a long time in the bathroom. So use the phone.
Maybe PodSave the people and with friends like these while
Yeah,
you're
get
at
them
it.
all. Got to catch them all.
Collect them all.
Collect them all.
The Cash App.
The Cash App.
Pod Save America is also brought to you by Postmates.
Postmates.
Love it. You wanted to continue the thought you started in the Cash App ad?
Honestly, it has left me.
Because Postmates and Cash App are really just for us to talk about whatever we want.
Yeah, what do I want to say about Postmates?
Well, it's delicious when you get a meal delivered right to your door from Postmates, which is very easy and has all of your favorite restaurants in your area at the ready. So all you have to do is click a few buttons, you're getting your meal, and if you haven't downloaded Postmates before and you do it, you're going to get $100 in free delivery credit. That's going to last you about 2 weeks. You're going to use that in that 2-week time, and you're going to get $100 in free delivery credit, and food's going to come to your
Use
house.
it or lose it.
And it's
I
gonna
got to tell
be
you, Postmates is a little too convenient in this one way, which
The code is crooked.
a certain NBC
Crooked.
correspondent keeps postmating shrimp quesadillas, and I'm in a contest where I have to log everything I eat. and I keep having to add to the spreadsheet. I took a giant bite of someone else's quesadilla.
Who are you competing
I
with?
hope you solve your issue with Matt Lauer.
Spencer Wong, my friend Spencer.
Cool.
We're in a competition. It's a workout and meal thing. It's not really a competition. It's more of a collaboration. It's like the Paris Climate Accord. It's unenforceable, but the reporting metrics are enough to keep us honest.
Cool.
Postmates. Code Crooked.
I may go Trump on the whole thing.
And we are joined by the host of Crooked Media's Pod Save the People, DeRay McKesson. DeRay, how's it going?
It's good. It's good. How are you guys doing? You guys have a big interview coming up.
We have a big interview.
We
do. You, what, do you have anything you want to ask Hillary, or you want us to ask Hillary?
I'm always interested on her about race. So anything that you ask her about race and justice, she had a lot of stuff in her policy platform that never made the light of day. Like, you didn't hear about it. So I'd be interested to hear about that. And then what does she think is going to happen moving forward? Like, she's been an insider for so long. And, she was First Lady and Secretary of State. Like, what's her thought about how we organize to respond to this administration? I'm interested in those things.
That's good. Yeah, we asked people on Twitter and Facebook for questions, and I think the most common one we got was, what's going to happen moving forward? Don't try to relitigate too much of the past, which I think is probably wise.
Which I probably want you to.
It's just going to ignore. So, DeRay, you were in Houston this weekend, I believe. What were you doing there? How's everyone doing?
I volunteered. Houston, it's a city rebuilding. I volunteered at the Harvey Relief Hub, which is like this incredible warehouse of volunteers donating stuff, and then people who needed stuff in Houston could come and just pick up whatever they needed. So it was great to be there. And then I came back to New York City, and I'm off to Philadelphia. So it was good to be there. And then, on the pod coming up, we talked to Congressman Yarmouth from Kentucky about the debt ceiling, which I didn't know very much about. So, yeah, it's been a full week.
We were talking about this earlier on the pod. What are your thoughts about this budget deal?
It's interesting. I realized how little I knew about sort of the budget making process until, the government started to collapse before our very eyes. And I was like, I probably should learn something about this. So, I'm interested in the debt ceiling. And Trump has essentially said we don't even need a debt ceiling, which some people, agree with in some ways. So that'd be interesting to see how it plays out. The DACA decision is still fascinating to see if DACA, like immigration reform, is actually used as the lever by which people get tax cuts. Congress. So I'm interested to see how that actually plays out, and hopeful that the immigration rights sort of space doesn't get screwed over as a swap for some really bad tax deal,
On the other hand, a billionaire DACA recipient would come out pretty well.
Yes.
Well, I'm sort of worried, DeRay, about what they're going to trade for legalizing these undocumented young Americans, which is there's a lot of thought that maybe it's the wall, right? They'll get wall funding, and some Democrats will say, okay, we'll give you the wall funding if we get DACA recipients legalized. What did Yarmouth have a thought on that, or what did he say?
No, he didn't. We talked about the debt ceiling and sort of the process. We didn't talk about, in all the people I've talked to, people haven't had much comments about what they think or many comments on what they think the swaps will be. I personally think that the wall is being used as the shock value that's going to open up space for them to do the crazy tax stuff that we're not even, we don't even know. And as you probably have seen, is that the ACA repeal is back on the table in some parts of Congress. So making sure that people aren't too fatigued to keep this fight up, I think is really important on our end. And I think that, the Trump folks are being really consistently dramatic that is fatiguing people. So,
yeah,
I think that they are doing that really consciously. And did you see that Omarosa is being locked out of that old office? That was interesting.
I loved that.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that.
I think
So
that
funny.
is terrific.
I love that she triggers him. That's the accusation from Kelly's team.
And love it. I didn't know that you used to work for Hillary.
I did. I worked for her for 3 years. I was her speechwriter.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. After Hillary lost in 2008, John hired me at the White House.
So this will be like a homecoming of sorts, this interview.
Yeah, that's sure.
Lovett gave her all of her funny lines
For a while.
DeRay, you're also you're mentioned in the book as well, and she talks about a very great meeting that she had with you and Brittany. But again, it's the question you asked, which is she talks in the book about she has all these policies, and it was hard for all these policies to break through. And I think one thing we probably want to ask her is, what did Democrats do? What do we do in the future to make sure that everything isn't just the Trump show, and then a lot of really good policy actually gets out there as message, which is, I think probably every movement struggles with, right?
Yeah, she was, we met her in Cleveland before she did a big event in some swing space, and she was incredible, like very thoughtful, all the right things about the police and race, and like in ways that I hadn't even anticipated she'd be. And you never got to see that. And that was I think that like the campaign really just made the wrong calculations about like not allowing the videotapes of those conferences to be released or like those meetings to be released. She didn't do much media with anybody who knew content. She did a lot of culture media, which was great. But they could have said anything about the content or about policies, and they weren't experts on it, so they wouldn't have pushed. So I think that was like a real fault. And you think about the surrogates, it's like a lot of people didn't know who Killer Mike was, but they knew him because of Bernie. Like he was an incredible surrogate. People had no clue who Katrina Pearson was, but Katrina was out there for Trump. It's like, who was actually the surrogate for Hillary? I don't know, I don't know who was delivering her message in any medium. And I think that they like just played that game wrong.
It's a good point. I don't really I remember like Karen Finney being on MSNBC a lot for her, and that's about it.
There was no one person who became the face of the campaign on television. That's true.
Podesta was on one or two times, but like who was even Benghazi? It's like the Benghazi story got so far without there being like a person being like, okay, here's actually what happened. It was like 50 people. And you're like, well, I don't really know. Whereas the right was just so thoughtful about like the same faces just beating her up over and over and over.
Yeah, and I think that's also true for the Russia investigation. I mean, when they sort of tried to amp up their messaging on the fact that the big story was the fact that Russia was interfering in our election, I think they sent out Robbie Mook, who was seen as a political staffer, not a national security expert or someone that they sort of credentialed along the way to talk about these specific issues.
Yeah, I mean, you learn in a campaign that message discipline is everything, and you have to be saying the same thing every single day, even when it gets boring. And when you look back at the coverage of the race, now some of this is the fault of the press, but it was all about her emails, and the Trump people and the Republicans and the right-wing media hammered emails and corruption every single day for the entire race, and that's what they got. And I think because Trump offends so many different kinds of people and does so many things wrong and is such a disaster, there's like 50 targets a day on how you hit Trump.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I was thinking about too from all of this is we need, like, it's almost as if we needed a first part of the sentence to attach what Trump was doing. Like, instead of attacking him for what he said about the cons on its own, like, Trump is a selfish plutocrat, which is why he attacked the cons. Or Trump is a racist billionaire who doesn't care about people, which is why he did this. Like, we needed one phrase about Trump that we all said over and over again until it stuck. And he was so erratic and so undisciplined and said so many crazy things that never happened.
Yeah. And look, and this matters for the future because we're going to face this again in 2018 and 2020. So
hopefully he doesn't last till 2020. Let's not even speak that.
All right. I like that. I like that optimism. All right, DeRay, we're taking off. We're going to head up to Chappaqua now. So
we're going to the woods, DeRay. I got some gorp. I have some kind bars. I have a canteen filled with water. I have bug spray. We are going to talk to Hillary Clinton.
Cool. Talk to you later.
Everyone go download Pod Save the People this week. DeRay's talking to John Yarmouth and a lot more. So, DeRay, take care. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, DeRay.
Cool. Talk to you later.
Bye. Bye. All right. That's all the time we have for today. We are headed north for this interview.
I've never been in New York City on 9/11.
Yeah.
It was a strange realization. I know a lot of people will never move on, but it does feel like this city, it feels like we're in a different place than we were.
I know.
Like when we were in the White House and we would, such a focus on the attacks and the anniversary.
Every 9/11 in the White House is a big...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's healing, if it's just the culture moving. I don't know.
I think the 10-year marked the end of marking it every year in the same way as we did before. We still mark it, but it's different.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
All right, everyone.
That brought the outro down.
Well, that's my role here.
Usually the outro is a chance for camaraderie. There's a fun video game-like music song that plays right now.
Is there?
Yep, it's just started.
Okay. Well, we'll talk to you guys later. Don't forget to download the bonus episode.
Download the bonus episode. It's going to be great, probably.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.